the program, but I don't think that's working either. Oh well.
That's all right. I didn't make myself look like a human being today, so it's fine. Be on the phone. That's great.
All right, so is anyone still having trouble getting on?
I'm not.
Tracy, right?
Yes. Sorry.
Well, who else is on?
I have audio. This is Shannon. I have audio.
Kevin Moriarty.
I'm here, Mayor, and Andy Patrician's here. Jeff LaFleur is here. Diane was going to do a roll call to make sure everybody's on the line that should be.
Okay.
As soon as you're ready to open the meeting.
All right, well, let's call the meeting of the Board of Public Works to order then on February 8th, 2020. Diane, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches?
Here.
Commissioner Tees? Commissioner Pappas?
Here.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Here.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Here.
All right, well, we have 4 members present. Now, we have some procedure that we have to follow because of and Steve Bolton is present also. Attorney Steve Bolton is present.
Mayor, also present are Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent of Solid Waste, John Stewart, Fleet Manager, and Dan Hudson, City Engineer, are also on the line.
Okay. So there's some procedure we need to go through with the board members. It is April 8th. I might have said something else. There's some procedure with the board members that we have to go through in order to meet the law with respect to remote participation. So I need to ask each board member. Well, first I will say that I am attending remotely because of my desire to exercise the social distancing, which has been advocated and ordered by the governor and others. And I am by myself, and I am at home. So I'm going to ask those same questions to the other commissioners. Commissioner Pappas, can you tell us why you are not able to attend in person?
For the social distancing reasons, and I am at home. And because everyone's social distancing, I have a full house, so I'm here with, well, my husband's in the office in the garage, and my 3 kids are all here.
All right.
Not in the room.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes, I am also social distancing due to COVID-19. I am home alone at the present time.
Thank you very much. And Commissioner Shoneman?
I'm also social distancing due to COVID-19, and I am alone for a change.
All right. Well, all of the votes that we're going to take today need to be by roll call to satisfy the requirements of the done the roll call. So the first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda as presented. Is there a motion regarding, does someone want to offer that motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of the motion? Oh, excuse me, Diane, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches?
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Motion passes and the agenda is approved. Next on our agenda is solid waste. There's item A under solid waste.
I'll move to approve a contract with Milton Cat of Londonderry, New Hampshire to perform a Caterpillar certified rebuild to the solid waste department compactor 052 for a cost not to exceed $500,000. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund, Solid Waste Activity, SURF.
And I believe Mr. LaFleur is here as part of the meeting to address this item.
Yes, sir, I am. Actually, John Stewart, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I'd like to defer to John Stewart to start the conversation.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes, Mayor.
you please address the item A, the cat.
Yes, sir. Milton Cat has a program in place to refurbish their equipment that will eliminate the need or the problem we're having with the emission issues on the current compactor. It's caused some reliability questions. And we've attempted to use the dozer to fill in it when it's down for repairs, and it just doesn't have the weight or the compaction, and it's just not designed for crash compaction. So with their program for refurbishment, they will take that compactor and totally strip it down to the bare frame, sandblast, and paint each piece as it's being put back together. It will have a certified powertrain in there, which they will rebuild the engine, the transmission. They will go through every system on the compactor, and that will bring it to a like new status. So new, in fact, that it will have a new vehicle identification number, and they will also warranty that for 4 years of any material and workmanship. And this is half the cost of a new compactor that would have the same emissions as the one we have now.
So a new compactor would cost about $1 million.
That's correct.
Is there any discussion, questions on this motion?
I do. I actually, one of the questions he already answered was how much would a new Caterpillar, would a new machine cost? So we've already answered that. How long would a new machine, how long would a new machine, we know the cost of a new machine, how long would a new machine last?
It should last between 10 to 15 years.
Okay. All right. So we're getting a little bit, so we're getting 4 years at about half the cost.
Correct. And it should be much more.
You're actually getting warranty for 4 years, Commissioner Pappas. You get a brand new machine at the $500,000 as a certified rebuild.
Oh, okay. So this is going to last 10 to 15 years?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The warranty is only for 4 years.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So basically, what CAT does is when they build a machine like that. Sorry to interrupt. When CAT builds a machine like this, they actually build a second life into the machine, and that's what we're going for, is to rebuild it for a second time.
Okay. So a couple of other questions. When it was stated that it wasn't designed for the use, do you mean it was no longer capable of compacting, or was this particular Caterpillar not designed for being a compactor?
No,
I was referencing.
Go ahead,
Why doesn't Mr. Stewart please go ahead?
I was referencing the bulldozer was being used as a backup compactor, and it's just not designed to be a compactor.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. So I guess my other question, so that's the answer to, so it's been out of service since 2018, so you need it back into service because what you were using as a backup isn't working.
Correct.
Okay. And then my final question, I think, is okay. Two questions. Is there something wrong with the machine number 80 that this is backed up for or not?
It's just that it's getting some time and hours on it. It had some issues with emissions. And by having this other machine rebuilt, it has no emissions on it.
Okay. All right. And so how many, so are we going to only have 2 compactors at the landfill, I guess is my last question.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
This is Commissioner Shoneman.
Go ahead.
How long is the rebuild going to take? And it's going to be done on site, I'm sure, right?
Caterpillar has said it'll take 8 to 10 weeks.
And it will not be done on site, Commissioner Shoneman. It will be taken to their dealership to rebuild.
Okay. That's all.
I just, one last question, and it was one of my first questions I missed. If it's okay, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so when we have these compactors worked on, does Caterpillar work on? I assume they work on them, and that's not something that our mechanics do. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. They're very specialized.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions or comments? All right, so the motion is to approve item A, which is the rebuild of the compactor, the Caterpillar compactor. Diane, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donchis,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. We'll next move to item the engineering portion of our agenda. There is an item B there. Is there a motion on item B?
I'll move to approve change order number 2 for the 2019 CIIPP lining project with Kenyon Pipeline Inspection of Queensbury, New York, for an amount not to exceed $1,500,000. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund Bond Activity Sewer Infrastructure Improvements.
All right, and I believe Mr. Hudson is here to address this item.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and commissioners. So this is a contract that we're seeking a change order for. Kenyon has done a good job for us. They've inspected a lot of sewer pipe and lined a lot of it for us. Our sewer system is about 315 miles of pipe. So far, working with Kenyon and others, we've inspected 98 miles of that, and we've lined 13 miles. So this is a continuation of that effort. The lining pipes is much less expensive than it is to reconstruct pipes. So it's important that we get out in the system, we look at these pipes, assess them, line what we can before they deteriorate and collapse, and then we have a more expensive repair, which is more disruptive. So we're asking to continue that work through this change order. And I'd entertain any questions about that.
Any questions or comments?
I would just have a comment that I do think that it's certainly worth it's worth the money to go ahead and line them because it is so much cheaper than totally replacing pipes, and that it does save our newly paved roads so that we're not cutting into roads to replace the sewers. My one question: are some sewer pipes in such bad condition that they can't be lined?
Yes, that is the case. We parallel to this, we have a contract. This year, it's with SUR West, where we're actually digging up and replacing some of the lines, and also going in and making point repairs. if we just have a spot collapse or something like that. So we have some of that reconstruction work going. That's about similar to this. That's about $1.5 million project this year. But we see a lot of value in doing this video inspection and lining work. One of the big benefits of this too is as we're looking at all our sewer pipes, many of which haven't been looked at in a long time, we're doing a cleaning of them. So this enables our whole system to function better, gives us a look at it, and we're able to do that lining in lieu of doing the digging, which is better value for the city in the long run.
Right. And so before they line them, they'll be able to tell that that we won't get in a situation where the lining might cause a sewer collapse. For the most part, they're able to tell that through the cameraing.
Correct. So we look at the pipes, and you can tell looking at them what type of pipe material it is. We look at how much deterioration it has. You know, if you have a pipe that has a collapse, you can't line that. But these are pipes that are still structurally the correct shape. You know, they're still round. They're still in good shape. You can line them, provide like basically a pipe within a pipe. Then once you're done, so it's a good product and seems to be working well.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? How many miles of sewer do you think we can line for the $1.5 million?
So I was looking up in our change order here. It's like another 10 miles or so of lining. Is what it is. You know, it all depends. This program, you don't know what you do. You got to go look at it so you know what you're going to do. So I can't tell you right now exactly what we're going to line, you know, because we have to look at it first. But we're lining as much as we can, and this will make a good dent in what we need to do. And also, I should say we focused this program on the downtown area where the oldest sewers are. Some of the other areas where they have plastic sewer, PVC sewer, those tend to be in much better shape. So we're focusing on the downtown area, and we're making good progress on that through this program.
Anyone else? Diane, could you please call the roll on the motion, which is to approve the change order?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. We're now going on to the next item on the
Mayor?
agenda, which is, yes.
Mayor, there's just a couple of other things that I just want to mention before commissioner comments, if we could.
Of course, please go ahead.
One is the sewer user warrants that all of the commissioners typically sign. I currently have 3 of those that need signatures. I spoke with Attorney Bolton, who is on this call, and he mentioned that perhaps the board during this the COVID-19 pandemic could authorize me to sign those on their behalf.
Okay, these are the sewer user warrants.
Correct.
I have no problem. I have no problem with that.
Let's do it by motion. Let's approve it by motion. So Commissioner
Okay.
Pappas, would you consider making the motion?
Okay. Yes, I'll move to have the Director of Public Works sign the sewer warrant user fees for the board. Sewer user warrants, rather, for the Board of Public Works during the COVID-19 outbreak.
Any discussion on that motion? Diane, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Right, thank you. The motion is approved. Director Photo, do you have other items?
Yeah, we have one other thing, Mayor. We received today resolution R20-025 that we need to act upon. We didn't receive that until this morning. Essentially, what it is I'll read it. It's relative to the approval of funding for the rebuild of the solid waste CAT compactor from the Capital Equipment Reserve SURF fund during FY 2020 in an amount not to exceed $500,000. Essentially what this does is when we have our SURF funds approved, they are for a specific purpose. The purpose had been for to buy solid waste trucks. We decided instead this was a more important use of the funds. So this is to authorize the change in the use of the funds from purchasing the solid waste vehicles to rebuilding the compactor. And so the Board of Aldermen is looking for a positive recommendation from our board for that.
So, and let me just offer a little more explanation. So the SURF Capital Equipment Reserve Fund list of purchases is approved by the Board of Aldermen, gets approved by the Board of Aldermen so that the expenditures are authorized. What's being proposed here is a substitution of what's being proposed via this resolution is a substitution of the rebuild of the Caterpillar compactor for other public works equipment. And the Board of Aldermen, so that has to be proposed to the Board of Aldermen, which has been done. And so the Board of Aldermen is simply looking for the Board of Public Works' recommendation regarding whether to proceed with that change. Excuse me. So basically, it just backs up what we've already approved.
Right, but can I ask you if so? What are we not replacing? So that we obviously we do need the Caterpillar. But I'm just wondering, what are we not replacing? Is there something we're not replacing?
We will be replacing it. We're just deferring it for a year. And I believe, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is two packers, two solid waste trash truck packers.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, we need, first of all, any questions or comments obviously are welcome. But ultimately, we do need a motion to recommend this resolution.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or questions? Yes, Commissioner Schoeneman.
No, I have no questions.
Okay. Does anybody have questions? Is there a motion to recommend a passage of the resolution R20-025?
I'll move to recommend favorable recommendation from the Board of Public Works, R20-025. Approval of funding of the $500,000 for the rebuild of the Caterpillar.
Any discussion? Diane, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches?
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Schoeneman?
Yes.
The motion is approved. Ms. Photo, do you have other items?
The only other item that I was going to mention, Mayor, and Attorney Bolton is on the phone to help us with this as well, is the whole issue of the challenges of public comment. And I didn't know if you wanted to explain what the Board of Aldermen has, the decisions they've made regarding public comment during this crisis.
Well, let Attorney Bolton address it, but the governor, some of his emergency orders have addressed this issue. But Attorney Bolton, could you go ahead?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Generally speaking, there's no requirement that public bodies allow for public comment or like participation by members of the public. It's not uncommon that it's permitted, but many boards, including our Board of Aldermen, I believe the Board of Education is considering a similar measure, are suspending their public comment periods during this time because of the difficulty with the technicalities about trying to conduct that sort of thing by phone, teleconference, and so forth. It proves to be quite cumbersome. So it doesn't violate any law if you were to suspend public comment during this emergency or forever for that matter.
Well, we're not proposing forever. We're just suggesting during the COVID-19 period. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that?
Well, I certainly hope that I think that we've always been pretty good about having our email, as long as if the mayor gets I think it's usually sent to the whole board, but if someone has a question or a comment regarding something for Public Works, if it would be shared with the commissioners, I think that would be a good thing to do. I know even if we're not required, it's not a bad thing to do in my view, but.
That would be fine. I will certainly share anything that comes to my attention, but anybody who's listening now, I would ask that comments be directed to Director Photo so that we could then circulate them to the entire board.
Okay.
That's
Thank
fine,
you.
but I would caution, don't get into a habit of having the mayor and the commissioners be discussing matters by way of email or the like. So even if it starts off with a member of the public making a suggestion or a comment, if the five of you or a majority of the five of you, so only three of you, were to send each other back and forth comments about what's going on, that could run afoul of the right to know law itself. Because you're not supposed to discuss these matters within your jurisdiction outside of a meeting. So just be cautious of that, please.
Agreed. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Photo, anything else?
I have some comments, but I can say what I'd like to say after a commissioner comments, Mayor, if you'd like.
Why don't you go ahead, because usually we have commissioner comments last.
Okay. So I just wanted to give the commissioners a little bit of an update. Of course, Public Works employees and our operations have been deemed essential by the governor. We have a responsibility to the residents we serve to continue our services as long as we can do so in a safe manner. We have as many people as we can working now safely. We're working very closely with the unions and assigning people according to contract guidelines. We vetted our plan through both Bobby Bagley, who's the Director of Public Health, and Justin Case, who is the Director of Emergency Management. We're limiting staff to groups of 3. Many of our employees are working independently. We're keeping the same groups together every day in the same vehicles to the extent possible. So we do not have staff going into break rooms. They're not badging in. We're having foremen who are checking them off in a social distancing manner. Our facilities are being cleaned regularly, and we have developed some COVID-19 recommended guidelines for our essential staff, which includes daily wellness checks and procedures to prevent exposure. And we're also providing our staff with the necessary personal protective equipment to do their job safely. So that's an update. We're pleased to say most of our staff are working. We've been very creative in finding ways that people can work independently and get their jobs done. And the only other thing I wanted to mention, because there's been a tremendous amount of confusion about this, is that we will be beginning soft yard waste pickup on Monday, this Monday, April 13th. And that's all I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have commissioners' comments?
I just had a couple of items for our regularly scheduled meeting. If it's not overly burdensome, just to get a couple of figures and just questions. My guess is that we're probably has some lost revenue because we probably don't have as much commercial trash. If we can get a general ballpark figure on that, and just to see, and maybe some sort of forecast or comment, to an evaluation of costs to see if it's if that will make the amount of money that the city has to kick into the landfill, if that's going to impact that significantly. And then the other, an update on if we have any kind of an update. I know everything is kind of in slow motion now, but I know that we kind of need to move forward on getting the permits for the update on the new phases of the landfill. If there's any update on that during our regular meeting, I'd appreciate that. And then I was looking through my notes, and I think it's a while since we've evaluated our sewer rates. And I know in the past the city ran into a real jam where that wasn't done for a few years, and we ended up with the kind of not as much money as we should have in reserve for sewer rates. So I hope that doesn't. I hope that doesn't. We don't lose sight of that, and it really needs to stay on our radar, so we don't get ourselves into that pickle again. And then, that's all I have.
Ms. Photo, can you address those items now?
Sure. As far as trash volumes, I don't believe that we've seen a decrease in our trash volumes, although I guess time will tell. If anything, I think they might come up a little bit just because folks are home and cleaning up. The new phases of the landfill, we are still moving forward with that. Sanborn Head we are very close to being able to place trash in the phase 3 landfill, and Sanborn Head is still moving ahead, even though they're working remotely with the permitting of the phase 4. And I think, Jeff, that we're supposed to have something in a month or two. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep, they were just
Okay,
waiting for.
So we did receive, I think, approval finally for our phase 3, and then there was just one more step that we needed to do, basically, to be able to start placing trash. So that's moving along fine. And as far as the sewer rates go, I am told I've been in discussion with our financial manager, Carolyn O'Connor, and she said that she and the CFO are continuing to work on that, and we hope that the plan is to have an increase for July 1st. And I will keep the board up to date on that as I hear more information from financial services.
Okay, so I wanted to clarify my questions about, I know that we're probably getting more residential trash, but we don't get revenue for residential trash. My understanding is we get revenue for some commercial trash.
We get very little revenue from commercial trash, Commissioner Pappas, because most of it is for the residential complexes like apartment and condominiums, so they get the residential credit. So we don't get revenue, but we do get some commercial trash, and we certainly can have those numbers for you for our April 23rd meeting to let you know exactly where we're at.
Okay, thank you.
That would be helpful because we may, through various, this Relief Act, the CARE Act, and other things, the measures passed by Congress, we may be able to be reimbursed for, or at least seek reimbursement for lost revenue and things like that. So if we do have lost revenue, we should. Any other comments from the commissioners?
I have a couple comments, Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, one, I continue to be concerned about having two drivers in the cab during this crisis. I don't know if that could be prevented at all. With the trash pickup. And the other comment would be, okay, go ahead.
I was just going to answer your question for you. So the automated drivers are by themselves. The semi-automated can work by themselves. Unfortunately, the drivers that are in Packers, you need somebody, at least one person on the back, tipping the toters. So in a Packer, it's not possible to operate independently, unfortunately.
So as I
we are providing them with masks. We're providing them with gloves, and wipes and sanitizer and everything. And we're going to do the wellness checks to make sure every day that they're feeling okay and that there aren't any issues. The other thing is we're keeping the same groups together. So if we have 3 people out on a Packer, it's the same 3 people every day in the same truck. So we're trying to limit our exposure that way as well.
Okay. The other question I had, Director, was: will there be an update on the architectural plans for the new building?
Yes. So that's going to be a challenge. I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet. Well, I'm going to work with Diane to set up a meeting for the committee to work on that. It hasn't gone as quickly because of everything that's been going on. It hasn't been moving as quickly, but we have recently received some information, and we will try to set something up so we can do that, so that the architect can present what she's thinking.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? If there's nothing further, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Pappas to adjourn. Diane, could you?
Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor, may I ask one more question? We never did a motion for a public comment. Should there be a motion regarding that? To suspend public comment?
I don't know, is Attorney Bolton on here still? It
It's
wouldn't
not on the
hurt.
agenda.
I'm here.
Oh, do you think we need a motion on that?
It wouldn't hurt.
Is there a motion regarding public comment during the COVID-19 social distancing remote access meeting period?
Yes. Move to suspend public comment during the COVID-19 crisis.
Is there discussion on that motion? Diane, could you please call the roll on that motion?
Mayor Donchis,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
No.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Now, if there are no other issues, if there are, please raise them, but if there aren't, there is a motion to adjourn pending. Anything else anybody has? All right, Diane, could you please call the roll on the motion to adjourn?
Mayor Donchis,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
And the April 8th meeting of the Board of Public Works is adjourned at 2:39 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. went very well.